Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a mistake, a multi-billion-dollar mistake that the entire fashion industry was making. Before the internet, the way clothes were made was so slow, so clunky, it was practically designed to lose money. So how did this happen? Let's get into it. All right, let's start with a number that just kind of blows your mind. In the 1980s, the U.S. apparel industry was hemorrhaging cash. We're talking over $25 billion. Just gone. Every single year. Now, this wasn't just a bad quarter. It was a screaming sign that the whole system was fundamentally broken. And this is where it gets really weird, right? This was an industry completely obsessed with cutting costs, with squeezing every last penny out of production. And yet, at the same time, it was lighting billions of dollars on fire. To figure out how that's even possible, we have to look past the sewing machines and zoom out on the entire, long, broken chain from the cotton field all the way to the clothing rack. So, where was all that money actually going? Well, that $25 billion loss wasn't just one single leak. Oh no, it was more like a flood, caused by a system that was completely, totally out of sync with what actual customers wanted to buy. Okay, so it really broke down into three big buckets of waste. First, you had these massive forced markdowns on clothes that, well, nobody wanted. Second, you had stockouts, that frustrating moment when the one popular thing everyone wants is sold out and you lose the sale. And third, just the sheer cost of storing literal mountains of unsold clothes in warehouses. And as if things weren't bad enough internally, the industry was also getting hammered from the outside. Low-priced imports were just flooding the market. In fact, they doubled their market share in just over a decade. This forced an already bleeding domestic industry into this brutal race to the bottom on price, which just made all its other problems that much more painful. You see, the real villain here wasn't the factory floor, it was the pipeline. The entire system for getting clothes made was this long, slow, disconnected chain where every single person was basically operating blind. I mean, just look at this timeline. From a puff of raw fiber to a finished t-shirt on a store shelf could take 66 weeks. No, that is not a typo. 66 weeks. That is well over a year. By the time a product finally hit the store, the trend it was designed for was practically ancient history. And this incredibly long delay created this really dangerous effect called pipeline whiplash. Think about it. Everyone is guessing what people will want a year from now. So a tiny little forecasting mistake at the retail level, say you're off by just 5%, that little ripple gets amplified as it goes back up the chain. By the time it hits the textile mills, it's a tidal wave. We're talking a 40 or 50% swing in orders. It was absolute chaos. So by the mid-'80s, some of the smarter folks in the industry realized this old game was just unwinnable. They basically said, look, we can't keep trying to find cheaper and cheaper labor. That's a losing battle. What if we just change the rules of the game entirely? They decided to stop competing on price and start competing on speed. They called it quick response, or QR. And the core idea, honestly, it was revolutionary for its time. It was, let's stop guessing what customers want and let's start reacting to what they are actually buying right now. The new mantra was that fast, real-time information was way more valuable than cheap labor. The goal? To connect the factory directly to the cash register. And the ambition here was just staggering. The old broken system took 125 days. That's 25 weeks just to get new fabric to a store. A quick response system aimed to slash that down to 30 days. And the ultimate dream, this very quick response, just 10 days. I mean, can you even imagine that kind of shift? So the big question is, how did they even plan to pull this off? Well, it wasn't one single magic bullet. Quick response really required a whole new toolkit, one that combined some brand new technology with a really fundamental shift in how companies actually work together. First and foremost, the whole culture had to change. I mean, for decades, retailers and manufacturers pretty much saw each other as the enemy. They hoarded information, they pushed risk onto each other. QR demanded a complete 180. It needed cooperative partnerships built on sharing data, planning together, and, actual trust. And this new partnership model was going to be powered by technology. You had UPC barcodes at the checkout counter to finally see what was actually selling. Then electronic data interchange, or EDI, could zap that sales data instantly back to the manufacturer. And other tools that computer-aided design just made the whole process of creating and producing clothes faster and way more flexible. So, the million-dollar question, did it actually work? Oh yeah, big time. One of the first major pilot programs linked up a textile giant, a pants manufacturer, and a little retailer called Walmart. The results were stunning. Sales shot up 31%, and they sold through their inventory 30% faster. It was the ultimate proof that reacting to real demand was way more profitable than trying to predict the future. But you'd think with results like that, everyone would jump on board, right? Well, not so fast. The revolution didn't happen overnight. In fact, it ran into some serious resistance from the very industry it was trying to save. The roadblocks were huge. For one, the technology was expensive. We're talking at least $100,000 just to get started, even for a small company. But bigger than that was the culture shock. You were asking lifelong rivals to suddenly trust each other with their most sensitive data. And a lot of manufacturers felt like it was a pretty raw deal, where retailers got all the benefits while they had to shoulder all the new costs and risks. And you can really hear that frustration in this quote from an executive back in 1987. He's basically saying, hey, wait a minute. Many manufacturers felt that these powerful retailers were just using quick response as a fancy new excuse to push all their inventory costs and scheduling headaches onto them without offering a real partnership in return. And that leaves us with the same really powerful question they were asking back then. Quick response was designed to be the secret weapon for domestic companies to fight back. But what happens when foreign competitors, the ones who already have super low-cost labor, what happens when they also master the art of speed? That's the question that would end up defining the next 30 years of fashion. And honestly, it's one the industry is still grappling with today.